Well, shoot, if we weren't committed before when we cut half the car apart to the old NASCAR swap, we are definitely committed now. This thing is no longer the LS Miata. It's got to officially shed that title because its entire swap kit is gone. It's sold. Fortunately, I was able to sell it all as a package, which is what I wanted to do, so it kind of lives on in another car. Unfortunately, I went to a really cool guy out of Chicago. He's building a Miata as a drift car, LS Miata. So it lives on, which makes me happy. I spent a lot of time refining that swap kit over the years, and that's why it had to go as a complete kit. But that means we are subframeless at the moment. Now, I've got one ordered. Hopefully, timing should work out by the time we need it. It's here, because we're going to need that. In the meantime, though, we've got the project I'm admittedly dreading the most in the midterm here. It's sometimes you got to get the ones you dread out of the way first, makes everything else that comes after easy. But I am admittedly dreading this one. It could go really good or it could go really bad and off the rails. We don't really know till we're kind of past the turning point. So it's just one of those things we got to commit and see what's on the other side. Now, it's a little tippy at the moment. So to keep this thing from somersaulting off the lift, I need to pull the rear subframe as well, balance things out a bit, and then we've got to basically make some parts to weld them in, so that we can cut parts out, so that we can make new parts, and so on. So we got a lot to do, and yeah, it's either going to be really cool or it's not. I don't know. I'm trying my best, and hopefully when we come out on the other side, it's a thumbs up, not a thumbs down. Oh, let's get to it. All right, need a little top off on my rocket fuel here. Oh, that always cracks me up. I guarantee you there's someone in an office saying that right now. So today's video is sponsored by Trade Coffee Co. Now, I am a big fan of coffee. I've been drinking coffee most of my life. And at some point along the way, a long time ago now, I started drinking it as is. No mix-ins, you know, just coffee, right? And the thing with that is the coffee obviously becomes way more important. What you taste is what you get. You know, you can't change it. You know, for me, cold brew as a whole was what I've pretty much settled on. You know, the cold brew I've made at home, I still have yet to find cold brew that's comparable at any coffee place, which is kind of disappointing, to be honest. It's not me talking myself up. This is super easy to do. With the Trade Cold Brew starter kit, you got your pitcher, got a strainer, put your coffee in there, cold water in, boom, 12 hours, steep it overnight in the fridge. I usually do 24 because I'm usually starting my next batch after I finished my last batch, which is usually in the morning. Take your grounds out and boom, you're done. You got your cold brew. It's not, you know, there's no rocket science to it, but there are a couple things that are really important. Number one is that the roast is roasted and ground specifically for cold brew. That's super important and often overlooked. You can have coffee that tastes really good hot brewed, but maybe not so good cold brewed because it brings out different flavor profiles. The cold brew is a lot less acidic, it's a lot less bitter, you taste different parts of the coffee. Another thing they do is that their coffee is roasted to order. Now, as it turns out, I've been drinking kind of stale coffee for a long time, and I just didn't know because I didn't have freshly roasted coffee to compare it to, but as it turns out, it was pretty stale. So anyway, that being said, if you're interested in trying it out for yourself, for a limited time, Trade is offering 50% off a month of cold brew subscription. That's like 60 cups of cold brew, give or take. So it's a lot of coffee. 50% off if you go to drinktrade.com/TaylorRay. So if you haven't dabbled in cold brew, I would highly recommend it. I'm telling you. If you haven't dabbled in Trade, you can kind of skip my trial and error, jump straight to the end. Great rocket fuel recipe. Again, drinktrade.com/TaylorRay, 2 R's. So that being said, we got our rocket fuel. We got what we need to do. We got a lot of work to do. No excuses. Let's get to it. Give ourselves some structure before we can take apart some structure. So the cage ties in to a corner box there. So that's not a problem. That's basically gluing all that together. But the front here, it ties into the floor. And the floor is what we need to cut out first. The floor and the frame rails. You can see just how beat up these frame rails are after all the years. You can see on the driver's side here where I've, patched it up quick for getting to the next competition and welded these plates in here. This one's already splitting back out. So we're going to be chopping out and replacing the floors entirely, as well as the center section of the frame rails. Not only to fix the floors that are shredding themselves apart, partially probably because Miata was never meant to have 500 horsepower and sticky tires. But we're also going to drop the floors down to give us at least an inch more headroom, but potentially up to 1.5 inches. Probably not quite 2 inches, but ideally an inch, 1.5 inches, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in a Miata, headroom is at a premium. So an inch even makes a pretty big difference. So that's the idea here. And it's definitely going to be a little tricky and a little time consuming, but do it right, it should be pretty sweet. So first things first though, we need to make corner boxes for the cage down bars here. It will allow us to cut the floors out, because right now they are dependent on the floors to exist. So let's get to it. Younger, just throw it together, get it done. Me would not have even considered making templates for this, but older me is a little bit wiser and knows that not only can you make the mistakes on template, which means you'll generally want to make more of them to get it really, really close and right, but you can kind of try things and experiment. And I was experimenting with trying to come up with a shape to make the boxes what I had in my head. I envisioned kind of a half hexagon type deal. I just thought it would look nicer and be a little bit more rigid. And it was a template taker. It was one of those things. It took a lot of templates to try to figure it out, and eventually I got what I was looking for. It's just a matter of whether or not we can actually make it out of steel, or I'm dreaming on this one. I don't know. Gotta just get to it, see what we can come up with. So after a little bit of a letdown with realizing my fear that we weren't going to be able to bend what I had in mind in the press brake, my vision was not realityable, I decided to scale it back to, we kind of just circled back around to the simple way of making it, which was my plan initially before I decided to try to make it the way I really wanted to make it. But this way should be pretty nice too, all things considered. I just, had to try, see if we could do it the other way. But we'll see what this turns up.
My delay's too tight, so it basically didn't wait to start moving long enough. Get out of here. Ran on my butt. If you're super afraid of bees and wasps, comment below. I know so many people who are like petrified, and if there's one nearby, they will freak out and run away. When I was a kid, I got stung by like 10 at once, and it sucked, but I survived, and maybe that's why they don't scare me that much. Don't get me wrong, I try to avoid getting stung by them if I can, but it's also not the end of the world if it happens. Alright, well, I don't know, we'll see how it turns out. I love making things with bends because you can make them out of less pieces. The downside to doing anything with bends is that there's really no going back from a wrong bend. Whether you bend it too far, you can kind of get it back. You can chase it a little bit, but too little, you can bend it a little more, but it's still never as right as just the one time doing it right. But if you put the bends in the wrong place, then it's really wrong. So trying to dial in these bends is a little tricky, and there's an offset. So trying to account for that too, it's a little hit or miss, let's say. Gotta really try to get this one just right. There's not a lot of room for error. After getting the first box done, I was happy enough with it to go ahead and knock out a second. I wasn't sure going into it. I wanted to get it at least roughed out so I could see if I liked it or if we needed to go back to the drawing board, but we're at that point where we might as well go ahead and make a second, because we're probably going to stick with this design, and it'll be nice to have it, done and dusted, have a pair of them. Now, the tricky thing here is, as I said, there's an offset. There's a little bit of an angle for foot clearance, and that offset's obviously mirrored from one side to the other. So while we got the method down, it's always quicker to do the second one, we've got to offset these bends the same that we did on the other piece, but opposite, because we need the shorter part on the front side instead of the back side, if that makes sense. So yeah, we got our work cut out for us, or bent out for us. And swing and a miss. It was close. I mean, you probably couldn't even tell looking at it from a distance, but I'll know that they're different. Basically, the second one came out more square and symmetrical, which we, again, need the offset, so we'd either have to make another one square and symmetrical or another one offset. Either way, we're going to have to make another one, because it was going to bother me knowing that they were slightly different. That one had that little bit of kick to it that I wanted, and one didn't. So, third one, here we go. I mean, if we can get this one right, and get it matching but mirrored, then one toss away, not too bad in the grand scheme of things. The tricky part here is not only lining up these bends, but with my press brake, if you have bends even remotely close together, it kind of binds up when you try to do the second bend. So both of these did the same thing, though. We got them where we wanted, bend the ears back a little bit, and then we can go ahead and get them cleaned up. Now, this is always one of the most important parts, and certain steel, the mill scale is just a struggle to get off, and you want to, just do a quick little clean and call it good, but it's important. It's got to be clean. The cleaner it is, the better the welds will be. So we've got our boxes where they're going to weld onto the rocker panels. Now we need to make our top plates, which, fortunately, having this trace feature on the arc droid, pretty handy in this scenario, because trying to draw this up on Fusion or something would be, I don't even want to know. But tracing it on here, pretty straightforward. Just got to make sure we leave ourselves some extra, because the line's on the inside, and then the cut's going to take some more away, and, offset. I was originally going to do them out of a 1/4-inch thick plate, but then I realized that was kind of pointless and unnecessary, so cut them out of the same 1/8-inch plate as the rest of it. They're already going to be way stronger than the factory sheet metal they're welding to, so it's, that's the weak link in all of this, regardless of if we use a 1/4-inch top or not. Now, one thing, when you get kind of used to grinding stuff and using abrasive things, you forget how sharp they are. Or the fact that they can, just like they can grind through steel, they can grind through a finger. And it nipped me. It's been a while. It's been a while since one nipped me, and I've got away with it a lot of times, but that time it definitely gave me a little bit of a slam, a wide version of a paper cut right there on the joint of the knuckle. Not a great time. Got to be more careful. These are the risks we got to take for shiny bright metal to TIG weld. The things I do for TIG weld. Since we're going to have to do some TIG welding in the car, I decided to switch back to my air-cooled torch setup. It's nice to have these two now. I didn't before, and I got a micro torch and realized I could use that lead for both, and it's pretty handy, you know. Welding this kind of stuff, we don't need the water-cooled torch. We're not running a crazy amount of amperage, but I went ahead and got the tops tacked on from the inside so that way I can make sure they're nice and flat. And again, we're going to TIG weld the top side, but I got to say, all this talk about shiny bright metal and making the sacrifices, slicing my finger for the shiny bright metal, and it was not shiny and bright enough. This welded, you know, it's not bad, but you see it, you know, when you're TIG welding, it's kind of a gray, dull gray instead of getting that nice shiny color. It does take away a lot of the fun. But I also had to switch my MIG welder over from aluminum MIG welding to steel MIG welding because we're going to be MIG welding in general and in the car, and I figured we might as well get it swapped over, kind of play around with some settings. That way we can MIG weld the inside of these tops since you're not going to see them anyway.
All right, you guys might find this funny. So I've had this MIG welder for years now, and I don't MIG weld very often, but every time I do, I'm like, man, I just can't ever figure out. The settings always felt wrong, you know. But I was using they call them synergetic settings on here, and I had the wrong wire size in. I always thought I had 035. But I had 030. I figured this out recently, but it just reminded me because I had to switch it back from aluminum. And what do you know? Welds way better when you're using the auto settings and you tell it the right wire size. It all makes sense now but we had less in it than what it thought. So anyway, yeah, pretty happy with those for crammed corners. Not too shabby. Got these welding while they're cooling down. I'm going to go ahead and make my rear thing for the thing. I want to get that done because I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I made a promise to myself that when I had the plasma cutter set up out and about, I would cut a rear deck for this golf cart rear thing that I made to fit it in the trailer better. And I also decided to paint it. I was a little on the fence, but I was pretty sure about it. And with aluminum, you've got to use self-etch and primer. So it's a whole, I'm not a primer guy, you know, unless it's real paint. But we got it painted with some nice gloss paint, so it should match the rest of the cart, blend in. And then this cover will be the snazzy little accent piece. So it's obviously a pretty elaborate shape to hand cut, so needed to do it with plasma cutter, but didn't want to pull it out just for that. And even wanted to get my logo in it. You know, if we got the thing out, we might as well cut the logo. It didn't cut as great because I had to make it a little bit smaller scale wise, but it's there. You can see what it is. You know what it is. You know what I'm saying. So then, of course, had to do a bunch of dimple dies. It's real satisfying on aluminum because it just punches right through them. And I wanted to polish it up. That was my idea in my head, was that it'd be super shiny and polished, but I didn't have enough polishing compound or rags or a power polisher to do it. So got it, you know, the old close enough. All right, well, definitely need to get some different color roller wheels. I'm pretty sure I got those because they were on sale or something, but they stick out like a yellow safety vest. But really happy with how this came out. I'm glad I could get that done. Got a logo in there, dimple dies, a little bit of polished, and I definitely think painting it was the right call, especially for the armrests. They were bothering me after building them. They're just what I had, you know. But overall, I think it looks pretty snazzy. Race cart. So anyway, it's time though. Now that's done and dusted. We got to hit the commit button on cutting this cage. It's yeah, obviously one of those little critical of a moment. But I mean, worst case, I thought about redoing the cage anyway. So it's like worst case scenario, I'd have to redo the cage, you know. But obviously, we'll try to cut it a little long, give us some leeway. We got to get these rockers all cleaned up. My plan is to TIG weld the cage to the boxes that we built because the rest of the cage is TIG welded. So I'm gonna stick with that theme, but boxes to the thin sheet metal rocker, definitely MIG welding that. No way I'm suffering through TIGging that. It'll be easier to MIG weld it anyway. But yeah, if that all goes well, it's a big if. If that all goes well, we can go ahead and hit commit button number 2. Cut the dang floor out of this thing. Like I said, I'm also kind of looking forward to it. Getting that monkey off the back, because once that's done, that's really the most, kind of the most out of the box thing we have to do, at least on the chassis fabrication side. You know, as far as drift cars go, it's, you know, cutting the rear off tube structure, cutting the front off tube structure. That's all normal. That's all, there's, you know, kind of examples for that if you get a little lost in the sauce. But cutting the center out of a car and cutting the frame rails out and building new ones is not so standard. There is no playbook to look at. So, you know, we got to really be diligent. Not that I really look at anybody else's playbook, but, you know, in those moments where you're not sure what the right approach is or how to set something up, you know, there's examples. Frame rails, floors, not so much. So we get this done and it goes well. You know, let's take Sawzall to the cage and plug away from there. Oh yeah, money in the bank. Story what you drank.
You know, I knew welding this, and especially TIG welding the cage to the boxes, was probably going to be a little bit challenging to get access to and, you know, working in tight spaces, but I did not expect cleaning it to require every dang tool in the arsenal, man. I had to break out every last piece of tooling that I had to clean paint and strip things down to shiny bright metal. That's the keyword, catchphrase today. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle trying to get in here, and again, it's got to be clean. Same scenario. Even MIG welding it, you know, this is a important part of the car. We want to make sure it's clean. We're not welding over old paint and paint over paint. So it's, yeah, it's pretty critical to get these in the right spot. And basically, I'm using the porta power to jack the cage up a little bit because, you know, without any support, it settles down. So we're basically pushing it back up, tacking it in place, making sure it's not tension one way or the other. And if that's all well, then we're good to go. So got box number 1 tacked in. You can see a little bit of flex. Now it's time for box number 2.
Well, pretty happy with that, honestly. You know, getting that profile to match. So not only are we welding, you know, to the face of this, which wouldn't be the strongest thing ever, but we're welding to this ridge here for the downforce and tying it into this ridge here. So basically all of the rocker to the box. Now the box is still going to be way stronger than the rocker. This is structural steel, but it's, you know, it's nowhere near as thick as 1/8" plate. So if anything were to fail, the rockers would split apart. You know, if that's happening from a wreck, like we've probably got bigger problems, you know. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with them, you know, the way we splayed them out so it spreads the load. And then now, I mean, we'll see how it is practically, but should have a little more clearance for the foot. I mean, where I would rub it was kind of right here, so it might not make much difference, but it gives us a little more room. That was one of the things I wanted to do if I did redo the cage, is bring it down on top of the rocker. So bring it over like 4 inches, you know. And then back here, just come to this shelf. There's just a couple things you can do. They're just weird, quirky Miata specific things. But this is a happy medium because I really love this cage. It's a great cage. It's been solid. Again, it's TIG welded. It's done great, but I think this is a good compromise to actually get the dang thing done in the next century. So anyway, I'm jibber jabbering. Those are tacked in. The rain sounds like it's letting up because we're gonna have to open the doors, throw the fan on because it was getting smoky just on the tacks. So it's gonna get real smoky when we glue these things in. It's not good. Don't want to do that in a closed space. But yeah, glue them in. I'm confident we should be able to get to this to TIG weld it. I debated cheaping out and on my effort and just going ahead and MIG welding them since I MIG tacked them. But the only reason I did that was just to get them right where I wanted at the edge. Stick to the plan. TIG weld the tubes to the boxes. MIG the boxes to the rockers. So come on, Rain, give me just a little bit. Just a little bit. I just need to weld this stuff out and then we'll call it a night and then we'll come back, I promise. Boxes were the real question mark part of this. So I am going to TIG weld them. Like I said, I promised myself I would. Just kind of basically like we did with the MIG welding in the boxes. Now, one thing I did notice on the other side, yeah, it's the same on this. There's a couple spots where the weld's a little thin on the door bars towards the back. So while I'm doing this, while I got the TIG welder over here, I'm going to clean those up and maybe this side too, and go ahead and do another pass over them with the TIG. Just, it's one of those things where you probably would have a hard time getting to it if you weren't able to lift the car up. And since we are, we might as well tidy it up. So yeah, that's that. Let's switch to the MIG for the TIG, get back to welding. Actually not gonna put this thing all the way up because I might throw another little reinforcement in there next to the box. I tried to protect my cage back in the day, this clear wrap, which has been on there since I built this car initially. But I spray painted the cage. Bad call.
Well, just like the cage boxes themselves, the welding in these door bars, as hard as it's going to be to get in there and weld them, it's that much harder to get them cleaned up. I had to dig deep into the utility belt, pull out the pencil die grinder, and I thought I'd found the perfect recipe with this little wire wheel on the pencil die grinder, but that didn't last long, so we've got to, just keep shuffling through the tool belt until we can get this cleaned up with our combination of tools, because again, if this wasn't TIG welded, it wouldn't be as critical. We could get it roughed up and that would be okay. But if we're going to TIG weld this and try to make it better and fill in this, you know, spots where it's missing a little bit. It's got to be clean, you know, and it's part of me wants to go through and rabbit hole this and do this on all of the tubes just while we have this much access. But I mean, if it would clean easy, that would be fine. The welding is, I mean, it's not the most fun, but it's also not hard. It's not that bad to get to with this torch. That's part of why I have this air-cooled torch setup, because it's a flexible head. It's a really light hose. It's just a lot easier to get into places. So point is, we're getting in there with the welder. It's welding just fine. It's just a matter of cleaning it. If we can come up with a better cleaning method, I might go through and just zap them all in again, because you know, it's kind of fun to get a nice thick weld on it. The old TIG torch is putting in work on this project, let me tell you. But I'm glad to have that done. I noticed some other spots that I'm gonna for sure at a minimum have to hit, and it's something I kind of forget about, out of sight, out of mind, until I'm looking at it, and then I think about it, and then, you know, then now's the time to do all these things. It's definitely a delicate balance, you know. It's you going down the rabbit hole for a reason, but at the same time, this is not going to be fun to do once everything's repainted, or if we powder coat the chassis and everything's put back together. So you got to make those decisions wisely of which things are worth taking that extra time for. So luckily, as I hoped, these were really not too bad at all to weld. I've talked about it before, how some things you'll look at and think, man, I got plenty of access. That's going to be a piece of cake to get to. And then you go to get to it and you realize you can't get the rod in, or this or that. And there was some of that with this, but for how difficult it looked to get to, which is, you know, I'd say a 6 out of 10, it really was like a 4 out of 10 on difficulty to weld. Even the cage bars themselves, I thought it was going to be terrible, but aside from it trying to set on fire the whole time, it really wasn't that bad to get those welded in too. Just another smoke show. There's a lot of smoke shows when you're welding on old painted, double painted surfaces. It's you know, it's just part of the game. Well, one part of the job done. Now we just got major cut number 2. Pretty happy with how those came out, though. Pretty satisfying. Seeing them just tacked was kind of weird, I'll be honest. But seeing them all welded, everything looks complete. I'm probably going to add some plating around that one, tying it in further. Bothers me. Same on this one. But for now, they're welded to the boxes. That ain't going nowhere. And then, yeah, we got these all welded back up, or welded up. Some of them, there were a couple spots, which I never noticed till now, that weren't welded all the way around. So like the bottom, it was specifically the bottom ones, and the top ones just had some kind of missed spots. It's an awkward spot to get to. So the only thing is, I almost want to re-weld around these, just because, you know, I welded with a much fatter bead and it looks kind of out of place, but whatever. We'll see. One thing at a time. We've got the cage welded to our rocker panels. So we are good to go there. We can go ahead and cut the floors out. It's that time. It is that time. There is no more procrastinating, putting it off. We've got our chassis tied together. Can't floppy noodle on us. At least not too bad. And we got to cut the floors in the frame rails. Hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. Now we're going to cut all the way up to the edge. Basically, oh, sorry. Bumped your head. It's a little tight. Now you know. Now you know what I'm experiencing. With the welding going on. Yeah, so we're gonna cut. Boom. We're gonna obviously leave this cage box. Boom. Cut down, down, and then across. You're heavy. Across up here where it's flat, right before it goes up, which is why one of the reasons I test fitted the pedal. That's all stuff we got to figure out as we go along and as we get it done. So. Whew, nothing left to need to get the welder stuff at least out of the car so we don't go chopping our hose and get to it. Remember how I said no more dilly-dallying and procrastinating? Well, I wanted to show you the results, okay? I'm not procrastinating. Oh, one kind of cool thing, you can kind of see better. Excuse me. You know, it's like where it went, where it goes now. I'm ready. Like I said, just a big moment, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. It will. Right?
this thing was definitely probably the right choice here. Well, I told myself, well, I get this out of the way. Wow. I know what's wrong with it. I ain't got no force. Should be pretty straightforward to do what I'm trying to do, though. Probably just cut this side from the bottom. It's easier to see where you need to go. These might come off because those sway trip those out. Messy job there. Messy, messy, messy. But we ain't got no floors officially. Also, for everyone who was worried about the shrink of the transmission tunnel, no floors. That's pretty strong. We still need to weld up the front now that we got the subframe out. Also, to clarify, I think a lot of people, like I didn't do a good job explaining, so a lot of people thought I meant something different than I did. I do not plan on mounting the mid plate to this tunnel. This is more or less front to rear rigidity, which we're gonna brace that back plate, and just basically scaffolding for the transmission tunnel panels, so that way we can make different sections removable, which we wouldn't really be able to do with just doing sheet metal. I was so confused because I'm like, but then I realized that was in reference to if we were hanging the engine off this, which we're not. The engine's going to the frame rail, or the mid plate. This, again, scaffolding. Yeah, we gotta clean all this gunk off here. Couldn't get to that when the subframe was on, so when I went to weld these, it was just smoke show. So hopefully we can clean them up enough to where it doesn't weld too bad. And then the top ones are still gonna be terrible, no matter what, I think. But I'm gonna try to clean the front side of the firewall a little more and see if it's not too bad. We need to get those welded though, because they're only tacked. That's the last part that has to get welded for this section. Weld, get this cleaned up, weld those in the rest of the way. And then we need to start making our plates for our frame rails. Actually, I gotta decide exactly how I wanna do that. I might actually, okay, we're close. I mean, obviously, we got the floors cut out of it. We can see daylight or shop light all the way across the board, baby. Oh man, never thought I'd take this car this far, I'll tell you that much. But I won't sit here too long without frame rails, so let's get back to work.
When I welded these chromoly tubes in for the scaffolding for the transmission tunnel, I remember getting to this point, and it was not fun. And that's, I mean, it's just the reality. You got to think this car is over 30 years old, or right around 30 years old. This is a pretty late NA Miata. It's a 97, so it's less than 30. But, you know, it's a lot of time for dirt and grime to accumulate, and it's been painted. Who knows if it's been painted again before I got it, and painted, and inside painted, and cut, and round, and welded on, and probed, and prodded. It's been through it, you know, and the point is, there's a lot of grease and grime built up, and I kind of forgot that getting the subframe out meant I could get to cleaning these bottom areas, and as you can see, it's still a smoke show, still a fire hazard, and lots of fire, lots of smoke. Got to take breaks basically to blow the fan on it to get rid of the smoke, so you're not, you know, dealing with that right in the face. But you can't have the fan on it while you're welding, because then it'll blow the argon away and it'll, you know, make it not weld. So it's you know, a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of a song and dance to get this done. But these top ones were what I was dreading the most. I honestly didn't know if these are going to be weldable at all, and so far, I mean, it's not welding good. I'm not saying it's welding good, but it's welding, and that's all I can hope for. You know, after the process I had tacking these in, I mean, you could see when the color changes. I didn't know you could TIG weld stuff this dirty. I don't think I've ever TIG welded stuff this contaminated before, and because of that, I ran a bunch of toe welds all the way around. So basically, you got the initial weld to the dirty, and then toe welding that up further and further to kind of just spread that load out because it's so nasty. But now we need to make some bacon plates. That way we can get this part off my mind. I was gonna wait to do this because, you know, wasn't, you know, critical at the moment, but it was on the mind, and it'll make me feel better when I get it done. And again, while we're here, that rabbit hole, not rabbit hole, gotta decide. While we got the floors cut out, man, now's the time for me to tackle all these things. If before was the time, this is really the time, because we got unlimited access. We got VIP access to get in here and weld this stuff. So I decided to go ahead and make these little plates so that way we can weld up basically where there's kind of like a notched in section, and then that's where the hole is. So that way we can weld that a little bit better, get a nice weld on it, and then we got to weld the bottom of the boxes anyway, get those fully welded in. So it was a good time to do it. But again, did I mention that welding on this dirty chassis is a smoke show? I swear I pressure washed this thing. Me and Osway pressure washed it. Took turns, and I mean, you think that you got it clean, and then there's still somehow so much grease everywhere. It's just one of those things, man. There's no way to ever get it perfectly clean, but fortunately everything's welding all right besides the smoke show. I'm still missing a little bit on the settings of the MIG welder. I'm much better at TIG welding than I am at MIG, which is kind of funny because MIG welding is simpler, but the thing with MIG welding is it's all on the setting side, or not all of it, but a lot of it's on the setting side. You got to get the settings right or everything else will be bad. TIG, you can completely miss on the settings and make up for it while you're welding, and just adjust while you go. So anyway, jibber jabber.
All right, we are officially done with all the gross, not very fun welding. I mean, we'll have more to do, but this stuff, I was dreading these so much. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. I had to toe weld them in to get them all the way up to the pinch weld, which was, you know, kind of hit or miss to weld. And especially these top ones, man, not enjoyable. You can see where it would pop and spit. That seam sealer, even with the MIG welder, it gets crazy. It does not like it. So when you're TIG welding, it's not ideal. But the fact that they welded is huge. That has been weighing on me since we built this structure, because I tried, barely even got tacks on them because it kept popping and spitting. You can see a remnant hole from that. We are going to plate the backside, but I just wanted to get them at least welded to the sheet metal first. So anyway, that's done. Those are all welded. Pretty dang happy with that. And then these came out decent. I mean, I missed a little bit on the settings, and I was trying to, come back over it, and, it's one of those things. But the bottom weld came out all right, which is the one that matters the most out of all these. So, yeah, anyway, those are all done. That's done. We've officially got a caged Miata again. That's all welded in. So now we've got structure in the middle, fully welded up. Structure in the corners, fully welded up. All we got to do is the middle. So that being said, we are quite clearly out of time for this one. I really wanted to get the floors and frame rails done, but I realized recently that, I think, like, why is it taking me so long to get stuff done? I used to be able to do like X, Y, and Z in this amount of time, but the problem is, I'm gonna start turning lights off because I'm running out of time. The problem is, I've tried to progress quality of my work, and I don't think I would enjoy it if I wasn't trying to do better than the last time and push myself to do things that I haven't done before. And it's just one of those things. As the quality of work improves, it just takes more time. It's just like little things, like the golf cart plate. Old me would have just would have cut it, from the template, and then marked where I needed to clearance it, done massive cuts to make sure I didn't have to re-clearance it, and then that would be that, that would be it. And then there would be big gaps, but instead I trimmed it like 6 different times because I really wanted it to fit right. And the rivets, it's just one of those things. The better you try to do stuff, the longer it takes. That's not me making excuses, and it's not me complaining. I'm just saying it's something I realize. But point is, this has to be done right, and the better we do it, the better it'll be for us as far as getting the seat as low as possible and all that, but then also the better the car will be, because that is the dang chassis. So this is, the last kind of big part of the chassis stuff. The rest is pretty straightforward, like cutting the rear out and stuff. That's all, you can kind of do it however, but this part's critical. I mean, we got to replace these basically new ones. You can see where I had the holes for the frame rail stiffeners. See my welded on plates. But yeah, you get the idea. I'm gonna save that for next time. We'll hammer it out though. I'm excited. We got like a running start at it, so it'll be nice to jump straight into it, make our new frame rails, cover plates, boom, 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 and then start making the floors and start skinning the transmission tunnel. Which now we have the bead roller, we can do cool designs. We're gonna use silicon bronze, which is gonna be pretty neat. I forget what those things are called. Zeus's. I almost never use them, but it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be exciting. I'm very eager to get it done, and I can't wait to see you guys for that. I got some equipment we might probably buy. That's been a mix in the middle of this, but for now, that's it. I'll wrap it up. So thanks for watching. I got so much junk on this, and you and me, my arm's burnt, but thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I will see you next time. Equipment stuff. Back to Miata building. Gotta do Arc 7 stuff. We got all the things. We're gonna be doing all the things. I'll see you for all of it. All right. Goodbye, guys. I have to say it again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye, guys.